They say when a baby is born, so is a mother. But while you are there to help your baby grow into the person he or she is meant to be, who is there to help you? Many women feel lost and alone when they become mothers, wondering, who am I now? Sometimes it feels like the transformation from woman to mother is as radical as a caterpillar's transformation into a butterfly. Did you know that inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar literally turns into goop before it rearranges itself into a butterfly? This podcast is about the goop, what soul transformation looks like as you transition from being a woman to a mom. Your baby's growth matters, but yours does too. You're not alone. I'm your host, Brittany Meng. Welcome to the Motherhood Metamorphosis. Hi everyone, it's Brittany Meng. Welcome to this special wrap-up episode of the Motherhood Metamorphosis. So I am recovering from COVID, so if my voice sounds a little scratchy, that's what's going on. We've had a crazy week this last week with my daughter being sick. My husband was out of town. I got sick, but I think we're finally on the mend, so I'm really happy just to be back in a more normal place. I'm so excited to just reflect on season 2 of the podcast. I just want to just share some fun stats about the last season with you. So the podcast is 11 months old. It'll be 1 year old in October, and that's when season 3 is going to be dropping. But we just wrapped up season 2 with 13 episodes. Season 1 was super long. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just excited to have guests, and it was like over 20 episodes long. So season 2 was a little bit more reined in with those 13 episodes, but we had a great season. The top 3 episodes for downloads were Savannah's episode about having a spouse who is a stay-at-home dad, and she had 900 downloads. The next one was Celeste talking about mommy wine culture at 681 downloads. And the third one was Danielle talking about learning to live again after your spouse dies at 530. And I recorded these stats a couple days ago, so they might have changed since then. But I'm super proud of these episodes. I'm super proud of the downloads and how people are responding to these. And I hope that you're able to listen to these wonderful interviews. So an episode that I'm super proud of, one that I was super nervous about recording, was the Sex After Kids episode with Lauren Elise. So I knew that I wanted to do an episode about sex from the minute I started brainstorming about this podcast, because it's just a topic that people don't talk about. And I was so proud of how that episode came out. The conversation was wonderful, insightful, practical, and I was just really proud of it. Also, I think I had to change my shirt afterwards because I just was like sweating through my entire outfit. Full disclosure there. So as far as some other stats go, this episode makes 45 episodes so far on the Motherhood Metamorphosis, and I'm really excited to get to that milestone of 50 in season 3. We've had 22.6 thousand downloads and growing. And we've had listeners from 133 countries from 5 continents. That just makes me so excited to think that people from all over the world, like mothers from every walk of life, are listening to this podcast and reflecting on their own growth, their own metamorphosis, and just hearing the stories of moms all over the world. So just by way of some fun facts, the top 10 countries that are listening are the USA, UK, Canada, Australia, South Africa, Ireland, Germany, India, Sweden, and Japan. I just love thinking about a map when I read those countries and just people from all over the world listening to this podcast. So if you are listening from one of these countries or one that I didn't mention, please let me know where you're listening from on Facebook. Go to the Motherhood Metamorphosis Podcast Facebook group and just leave a comment about where you're listening from. I would love to hear from you. I'm so thankful for everyone who supports this podcast financially too. Right now we have 15 patrons on Patreon, and Patreon is a monthly subscription website where you can pledge money, and these patrons pledge either $3 or $5 per month to support the podcast. So I'm just so thankful for each one of you. Really, your financial support means so much to me. I use the money for hosting fees to pay each month to host the podcast online. And also I've recently had to start paying for Zoom. So your donations help me pay for the fees associated with this podcast. And I'm just really thankful for that. It also just helps me compensate a little bit for my time, because for every 45-minute podcast, it probably takes me about 3 hours to edit, not to mention social media promo, creating graphics, and doing all of the behind the scenes work to keep the podcast going. I wanted to share the upcoming topics for season 3. I have been working hard this past month in doing interviews with some amazing women. I have so many episodes that are on queue, ready to edit and go up online for season 3. And I wanted to share a sneak peek of some of the topics that we'll be covering. One that I'm really excited about, that I interviewed with one of my really good friends from college, is understanding your unique personality and how it affects motherhood. And we just get really nerdy with some of the classic personality tests like Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, whether you're introvert or extrovert, and just go deep into that and how what you bring to your motherhood is what you need in your personal family and for your own personal growth. Some other topics we're covering are secondary infertility, the IVF journey, raising twins, going through a divorce, learning to live again after losing a baby to SIDS, raising eco-conscious kids, second chances with our grown kids. And this was a really unique interview because I actually interviewed a mom and a daughter. The daughter is in her 30s, and that was just a wonderful, beautiful conversation about reflecting on the things that we regret as moms, things we don't do well, things we do well, and how to keep that relationship alive with our kids. So I can't wait to share that one. Some other topics are having a child with Down syndrome, motherhood as a military spouse, and preserving your personal peace around the holidays. And that was such a fun conversation. I can't wait to share that one as well. This season is going to be really great, just full of life, full of reflecting on grief and hope and ways of being ourselves in our motherhood journey, in our womanhood journey. So I'm super excited to share this with you guys. Season 3 will be dropping on October 3rd. I am taking off the month of September to rest and also edit podcasts, but mostly to rest because the podcast really wears me out. I mean, I'm not going to lie, guys. It takes a lot out of me. It requires a lot of time and effort, and I just need to take a break. So you can look for the new season on October 3rd. And in the meantime, I hope you can catch up on the 44 episodes before this that you may have missed. I'm so excited just to think that over the past 11 months that there's been 44 stories that have been shared by women and by myself and just put out into the world to help encourage you, to give you good food for thought. And I just hope that you enjoy those. So I'll be sharing some of the promo graphics throughout the month of September on social media, and I hope you'll come to the Facebook page and just comment and share your thoughts, because those comments really help keep me going. I shared this on the previous season 1 wrap up about how podcasting is really a unique medium and how there's not a lot of interaction like there is with like a written post on Facebook or Instagram where you can immediately leave a comment. Because when we listen in our podcast apps, there's no place to really interact. You would have to kind of go to a different platform to say, hey, that was great, or leave a like. But those comments and those likes and those interactions really help me know that listeners are enjoying the content, and that encourages me to keep going, because I'm a one-woman show behind the scenes here, and it can get lonely and feel discouraging at times. I'm telling you, I have griped to friends after season 1, and even in the middle of season 2, I was like, this is it. I'm done. I need to stop doing this. It's too much. But I'm not done yet, and I'm going to keep going. And like I said, I'm really excited to share season 3 with you guys. By way of wrapping up this reflection episode, I wanted to share some personal reflection from my own life on this day. So today, my 3-year-old daughter started preschool, and she was actually supposed to start a week ago today, but she got COVID and was very sick this last week. So she missed her entire first week of preschool. But after I dropped her off today, I came home and the house is completely quiet because all 5 of my kids are in school, even if it's just for 3 hours for my daughter this morning. And I was thinking back to 3 or 4 years ago. This week is when I found out that I was pregnant with her. And that was a really hard time in my life because she was an unexpected pregnancy. We had just moved to England. Literally, we had been in England for less than a month when I found out that I was pregnant with her. And my whole future plans just were upended, uprooted. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to start completely over again. Because when we moved to England, my youngest son was going to be starting preschool. I thought I was going to be starting this new chapter in my life of that deep breath of, okay, we're finally out of the babyhood, we're finally out of the toddlerhood, we're finally into the preschool years. And finding out that I was pregnant again with my 5th child and having to start over was really hard for me to wrap my head around, and it required a big grieving process. And I'm just sharing that honestly because I think a lot of times we don't talk about the grief that's associated with motherhood when we think about maybe putting aside our own plans that we had for the future, the ideals that we wanted to create in our life, maybe a job, maybe we had goals for athletics or volunteering or writing a book or whatever it may be that we wanted to pursue that we had to put on hold. And that's the goop. Like that's being in the dark, that's dissolving and just kind of sitting in that darkness for a long time and realizing that, hey, life is not looking like I thought it was going to look like, and it's shifting a lot. And my pregnancy with her was very difficult. I think it was one of the hardest experiences of my life, physically and emotionally. But as I think about these last 3 years, and I think about this last year where she was just at home with me, and we had this special time together where we'd go to the library and we'd go play at the park, and we had just mommy and me time at home. And I just love those memories. And I'm acknowledging that she's growing up, and it's such that beautiful, bittersweet, sweet, bitter time where I'm so happy that she is growing into this little girl who can spend a couple hours a week away from mommy and making friends and learning things. And I also miss her. But I'm excited for myself in this new season too to say, okay, there's some silence in my house where I can just breathe and I can just take care of myself for those several hours a week where I don't have any children to take care of. And that's a good thing because I've been a caregiver for 15 years. Somebody's been at home, and it's time for me to have just a breather. At the same time, like, I'm sad that she's growing up and she's going to be away from me for those few hours. So it's like that both and of motherhood. But I can see myself emerging into a new season, kind of like that butterfly coming out of the chrysalis and realizing, okay, something new is happening. There's new growth available. And I'm seeing some new ways forward, or I have the ability to see new ways forward after being in the goop for 3-4 years. So if you're in that place today where you're just feeling lost and you're grieving and life is not looking like you thought it was going to look in your motherhood journey, just know that there's other women who are in that space as well. And you're not alone. I know that not being alone can give comfort, but can also be very lonely. And so I just want to acknowledge that if you're lonely today, that you're seen and you are loved. If you're feeling that deep ache of loneliness in your heart, know that there is life after that pain and to keep moving forward. Thank you, friends, for listening today. I'm so thankful for each one of you listening, supporting the podcast financially, supporting the podcast with comments. So here's a couple ways that if you're wanting to support this podcast, if you're loving it, here's just maybe a couple ways that I haven't mentioned yet. I love it if you could leave a review in Apple Podcasts. That's the one place online that you can actually do a little written review. And even if you want to leave I love this podcast, that shows up on stats and reviews when people look at the podcast, and that really, really boosts the show so that more people can find it. You can also leave stars in Spotify. That one's a little more confusing about how to find, but it is possible to leave stars in Spotify. There's no place to actually leave a written review though. Another way that is brand new that you can support this podcast is by Buy Me a Coffee. So Buy Me a Coffee is a little different from Patreon. Patreon requires members to support monthly, so like $3 per month, $5 per month. Buy Me a Coffee is not like that. It's just a one-time donation where if you feel like, hey, that episode really spoke to me, I've got a few extra dollars in my bank account, I want to, buy Brittany a coffee, buy the podcast a coffee. I will share a link to Buy Me a Coffee. It starts at $3 for a little donation. And I hope that if you do that, you can just imagine me sitting down with you and just having a chat and having a coffee together. I just love that image, and I love the idea of women just listening and having their coffee or tea and just reflecting on their motherhood. So that's another way to financially support the podcast. And please leave your comments. Please, on Facebook, invite people to join the Facebook group. That's a great community. I hope that you will enjoy listening to the podcast while you clean, while you cook, while you sit in the car pickup line for taking your kids to and from school, while you're resting or crafting or whatever you do in your life, walking. These are all ways I love to listen to podcasts. So those are just some ideas for getting a little more podcasting in your life. Thanks, friends. I hope you have a great day. Hang in there. You're doing a great job. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Motherhood Metamorphosis. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode. Next, tell your friends. Podcasts are a slow growth type of social media, so promo works best when it's from person to person. If you know another mom who's in the goop right now, send her a text of encouragement and the link to the episode that is speaking to your heart right now. If you have a story about your own matrescence, the physical, emotional, hormonal, and social transition that occurs when someone becomes a mother, please leave a comment below. I want this channel to be a place where women can build community about the challenges and joys of their own motherhood metamorphosis. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope it encouraged you and gave you some good food for thought. If you ever have any questions, comments, or you'd like to reach out to me personally, you can email me at brittanyameng@gmail.com.